Hi everyone, thought I'd just come on and tell you a little bit more about Dolly. As you can see, I pointed at my garden, well kind of at the herb garden, because I went for a walk earlier for 10 minutes to do a video, got back and the silly thing hadn't worked. So I can't go for another walk, my darlings, so you're just stuck with looking at nature in my garden. Right, first and foremost, I shall tell you that Dolly, as you know, is a happy girl. The next part of her happiness will be expanded on the day she is able to marry the man that she hopes to love forever. She had become rather worried lately about the cook, even though she didn't want the cook, Mrs. Doe, her friend, to leave. She had noticed that Mrs. Doe seemed to be going downhill quite rapidly. Her hair was greying at the temples now, and she looked tired most of the time, and had gained an almost hobble and seemed to lean on the furniture more in the kitchen when she was baking, cooking, cleaning, whatever. She decided it would be best to start buying some bits and pieces for the bottom drawer, ready for the wedding and possibly the cottage. She brought several things that she had seen as she'd been to markets and stalls on the market and second-hand places. And she had been able to gather several bits and pieces, 2 or 3 plates, 3 sets of cutlery, 2 cookery pots, and some other bits and pieces. And she had been really lucky to be able to go down to the mill down the road where they ground the flour, and had found for herself, that had been discarded, some of the cloth sack bags that they used to put the flour in, because then they were all printed nicely and they weren't sacking, they was actually like linen. So she managed to get some of those and been lucky enough to sew up the tiny holes, and they would be great to go over the pillowcases as an under pillowcase. So she'd managed to get 6 of those, and that was fantastic. Eventually she thought she must speak to her friend the cook about the situation as it stood. And so she did. She managed to catch her one afternoon between meals and asked her how she was feeling, what she thought about the days ahead and how her friend would cope. She sat down with Mrs. Doe, and Mrs. Doe said, "Look, my lovely, I know it's time, it really is time that me and Mr. Doe step back and let you young uns take over. I'm a little bit concerned about what the master and mistress might say about you taking over, being as you're not married and all that, because that is an issue, you know." "I know," said Dolly, "and I really do want to get married as soon as is possible. But it isn't down to me, is it?" she said. "I've got to wait for Bill. I've got to wait for him to ask me." Mrs. Doe told her not to worry and be off now and have your evening out with your boyfriend. She met her boyfriend on the corner and they went for a stroll. They weren't going anywhere particular, they just liked being in each other's company. Bill turned to her and he said, "Dolly, I've been thinking we should live together." "What?" she said. "Bill, how could you? We're not even married." He giggled uncontrollably and laughed at her as her little cheeks went red. "I just wanted to say that," he said. "I knew it'd make your cheeks glow red, and I do love it when you blush." She was not exactly happy with what he had said, but she thought, "Oh well," but turned away and smiled. "I've got something for you," he said, "because it really is about time we thought about this marriage, you know. We've got to do something about it." He put his hand in his pocket and he pulled out a handkerchief. It looked a bit worse for wear, a bit threadbare, but it was definitely a handkerchief. "I've got you something here," he said. "Think you might like it. Well, my ma says you will." And he handed it to her. And as he handed it to her, he says, "My ma says no girl can be engaged to get married without some kind of a ring." And he handed over the cloth. He popped it in her lap, and she just looked at it momentarily, not quite sure what to do. She picked it up and she kissed him on the cheek and opened it up, and there inside sat a very thin gold band. "It had been my grandma's," he said, and my mum's, And they said, you know, it'd be nice for you to have it, being as you're the first daughter-in-law that will come in the family, like. She looked at it. It was a bit dented in places, a bit worn in places, but it had been cleaned with shine and the sun caught it. And she knew that it was the best piece of jewellery she'd ever seen in her life. It was hers. "Should I wear it now?" she said. Bill took her hand and said, "Look, leave it for a while, love. Why don't you save it for a wedding ring? It'll make it so much more special if I could put it on the day." "Okay," she said, "but I'll keep it close to me." He said, "Yeah, put it in your pocket for now." So she put it back into the handkerchief, folded it up and popped it in her pocket and patted it twice, smiling at her own good fortune. When she got home, Mrs. Doe was there and ready to talk to her. "Well, my lovely, I've had a word. They said that they're more than happy for you to take over the position of cook, but they really can't see your man being a footman, let alone a butler. So they've decided, as luck would have it just lately, the boss has decided he wants to buy a piece of land further down the lane and he wants to have a shoot. They're going to grow some wheat or whatever for the pheasants and all to eat, and then eventually they'll come and they'll have a shoot. Well, of course, if you've got pheasants and you've got wheat and you've got land, you need someone to do the looking after, and that's what they're offering him, basically a keeper of that land. Do you think he'll accept?" She felt absolutely sure Bill would. Absolutely sure. He had been a countryman all his life. He liked to fish. He went out and got rabbits with his dogs, with his parents, especially his dad, of course, not so much his mum. So she knew he'd be happy to take on the job, but obviously she couldn't say yes. She would have to wait until she spoke to Bill. She managed to catch Bill the following day as he went past on his bike to work. She made sure she was on the corner at the right time. She knew what time he went by, and she told him about the possible plans, that she had got the job, which she was absolutely amazed about, and that he had been offered another job, but that they would have to be married before they could take the job. So Mr. and Mrs. Doe had said they would hang on until such times as they could leave, happily knowing that the jobs were filled. Dolly then started really into her plans for the marriage. As you know, they say, if this is true, that it was Queen Victoria that brought in the idea of a wedding dress. They weren't always white, they were sometimes grey or off-white, but someone like Dolly could never expect to have something like that. Up until then, most girls just got married in their best bib and tucker, their Sunday dress. But as luck would have it, the servants gathered together and said, if we put a bob here and a bob there and a penny here and a penny there, we soon have enough to buy her a new outfit for this wedding. An outfit fit enough for the chapel and for the booze up in the pub afters. Good idea, said Mrs. Doe. I think that's a marvellous idea, and we'll do our best to lay out some good food for her. Nothing spectacular, maybe some jelly deals and the likes, said one of the footmen. Don't talk stupid, said Mrs. Doe. We want something nicer than that for our Dolly's wedding, that's for sure. So the plans were being made. The chapel and the vicar were told that they would like to have it spruced up and cleaned and ready for a wedding within the next 4 or 5 weeks. Dolly was elated, and so am I, because it means Dolly is going to enter a new chapter of her life as a wife and a cook. Thank you, ladies and gents. Bye.